Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com. So I got a couple of requests here. I did a book review on Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, right? And this is sort of one of those books that's a little bit out there. Anyway, I got a couple of requests on basically, let's see, how to put this nicely. How I became a New Age nut job, essentially. Because, my views have sort of changed drastically over time, and obviously some people have you can watch this video where someone says that John says all this new age bullshit and tries to sell it to people, so I think that's kind of funny. But anyway, it's kind of funny that I talk about a lot of topics that, as an analytical person, as a programmer, in my former life, I guess, I still identify, but that I would have thought was crazy, right? I mean, hell, I went to a Tony Robbins seminar, right? You can check out the review I did here. But that kind of stuff, maybe like, I don't know, I guess probably like 6 or 7 years ago, I would have been 100% totally thinking someone was cuckoo if they were talking about that stuff, half of the stuff I talk about now. So the question is why? How did I go down this path? Why do I believe a lot of this now? Why does this influence me so strongly? So it's really hard to point to a specific reason. There's a whole lot of things that have changed in my life that have caused me to go down this path, that have made me very sure that this is the correct path to go down, and to really question what I used to believe, or what my frame of reality used to be, when it was so scientific and analytical and everything could be explained in those terms. And I'll tell you that, when I had a lot of resistance to this path, right? I remember my lovely wife, she had this book called oh gosh, I just forgot the name of the book now. It's like the most famous, self-help book, and I can't remember the name of this book. Think and Grow Rich. That's right, it's Think and Grow Rich. See, you guys sent me those vibes through the video camera. Anyway, Think and Grow Rich. When she first got this book from work and was reading this book, they gave her like this list of positive kind of salesman, typical salesman books, and I started reading this book, and I was like, this is bullshit. This is crazy. I don't know. I'm not buying this. This doesn't make any sense to me. And this was, I don't know how long this was, maybe like 6 or 7 years ago. Right, so my first exposure to the book, you can check out the book here. I just forgot the name of it again. Think and Grow Rich, right, by Napoleon Hill. Anyway, I've read this book several times now. But anyway, when I first got exposed to that book, that was my first few points. But here's what's happened. So there's a few things here. So one of the interesting things that happened was I started talking to, as I started to open up my eyes kind of in an entrepreneurial sense, right? As I was trying to do more than just work my regular job, I started talking to, rich people, right? to millionaires, to successful people. And every time I got the opportunity, I started reading a lot of books. I've always been a big reader. I said, well, what is like the number one book you'd recommend that everyone should read? And Think and Grow Rich kept coming up. And I was like, are you crazy? This is like a crackpot book. Okay, fine. Right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down and read this damn book and find out what the hell is going on. And I read it through the first time, and then I'm like, what the hell? Are you serious? I have to like say these things in front of the mirror and believe this stuff, and like this guy's kid's hearing, like he doesn't have ears but he can hear because this guy thought it into existence. This is total bullshit. This is like total, what the hell? Right? I still didn't quite get it, but I said, okay, well, if every single super successful person is recommending this book, there got to be something here, right? And about the same time, sort of, things start happening in my life as I started to get opportunities and stuff, right? I started to sort of shift into this mindset, right? I sort of started doing things that were uncharacteristic to me, right? I sort of, as I became an entrepreneur and involved in entrepreneurship, right, I associated with more people that had sort of different worldviews than I had. They had bigger belief systems. They actually thought that they could achieve these huge things in life, but then they were doing them, right? And I started doing them, right? I mean, I'm not gonna go through the whole story. I'll hit on this. I've been doing my series of my career, and we'll eventually get to this point. But anyway, my point here is that I start to realize that like all of this, like all the success that I was finally able to start achieving in life. I mean, up until this point, right? I mean, you gotta realize that there is the old way of John's thinking, right? And it goes back, way back, right? For like 13 years of my career as a software developer, right? And it's fine. I'm doing good. I'm making good money, okay. But things don't really start to friggin' take off like a rocket until this mindset starts to shift. And so I start believing this crazy ass shit, right? And it's like, to me, it's almost incontrovertible proof. Is like, wow, these concepts that I thought were so crazy, that I just threw out on the basis of reason and logic, there's actually something to them. And the funny thing is that, I associate with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of successful people now in business that have their own businesses, that are running multi-million-dollar businesses, online businesses, and they are all reading the same books, right? They all have the same sort of, a lot of them have been to Tony Robbins seminars. A lot of them have read Eckhart Tolle's books and swear by them, right? It's amazing, right? It's just amazing how much, I can sit down with a successful entrepreneur, and I can pull up their book list. We can share book lists, our Audible book list. I did that with Brandon Carter when I met him. I was amazed. I was like, damn, this dude has the same books that I have, and a lot of these are these kind of woo-woo out there type of books, right? So it's weird, right? I mean, it's almost like, gosh, I don't even know, like, I don't want to sound all mystical and weird here, but it's almost like the universe is like, John, it's time for you to wake up. It's time for you to realize that what fits in your head is not all that there is. That there's more than what fits in your head, that the world is a little bit bigger, that sometimes you got to move from here to here and realize that there's a lot of shit that you don't understand, and that's fine. But it doesn't make it not true. It doesn't make it not useful. It does not make it not valuable. And so, yeah, I think that it just, it happened because I was ready for it at that point. And I acknowledge that it seems crazy. I acknowledge that this story I'm telling you now seems crazy, but it's amazing, when you look at my life and when I started really believing in these concepts, believing in things a lot bigger than myself, and going down this road, how much things change, not just from a monetary or financial standpoint, but every aspect, right? I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my life. Mentally, I am the best. I'm more productive than I've ever been. Emotionally, I'm better than I've ever been, right? In all of these areas, I'm having, crazy success that I never experienced before, and it's because my belief system has changed, and it's a lot broader. It's a lot stranger, than what it used to be. And so, yeah, I mean, so that's proof one in my own life. And then the second thing that I would say is that just all the people that I associate with, all the entrepreneurs, all the, like, it's really hard to, to say that. It's really hard to imagine that all of these people that are successful, super successful, have very much these same concepts and not say that that's why they're successful, right? I mean, when you go into your office and you walk around, most people aren't thinking about these things or reading about these things, right? You know, no offense. I mean, you know, you can be successful as a software developer working for someone else, but if you go around to a conference, right? And I go to internet marketer conferences or, you know, entrepreneur conferences, they're all talking about the same concepts. They're all have the same kind of mentality and way of thinking that would seem really strange to the analytical engineer sitting in his desk. That used to be me, right? So it's really hard to argue with that. And even when I read mainstream books, it's funny. I mean, I just read Cal Newport's book on deep work, and I don't think he was even familiar. We'll put a link here for Cal Newport's book. I make my editor's job hard. He's such an awesome guy. But anyway, we put that book there. And then there's another book that I don't think Cal was aware of, which is called Psycho-Cybernetics, which is right here. And he basically described, because he didn't mention psycho-cybernetics, maybe he's read it, maybe he's aware of it, but he described the exact concept, this whole idea of self-image and construction and a goal-seeking mechanism that your brain is. I don't think he even realized it. And so it's like, it's weird. There's this, in you know, the other piece of this, I should probably wrap this up. I'm going along with these, but I think this is pretty interesting. But anyway, the other interesting aspect of this is that a lot of the deep wisdoms that you'll find in multiple areas, right? From, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you know, hey, John, that sounds a lot like Zen Buddhism. Or they say, John, hey, that sounds like Stoic philosophy. Or, you know, or whatever they, you know, or, you know, some kind of, or that sounds like, you know, something in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, well, that's interesting because all of those places seem to point to the same type of wisdom. You know, you go from society to society, and you go from, you know, book to book, and everywhere that you find super, you know, formulas for success, right? And it doesn't matter if you read Brian Tracy's stuff, or Tony Robbins stuff, or Jim Rohn's stuff, or, you know, or even someone outside in sort of an analytical field like Cal Newport, who probably doesn't subscribe to a lot of this stuff. Those same concepts, the same wisdom is there. And so, you know, some of that seems crazy. Some of it seems weird. We don't understand it, but I've come to accept that kind of stuff can lead you to success. That kind of stuff, it actually does work. And, you know, if it didn't, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be telling you this. I wouldn't be making these videos. I wouldn't be inspired and believe that I need to share this, you know, to impact your life, because I would just be, you know, sitting at my, I don't know, where would life have taken me? I would have been down a totally different path, not down this path, right? So, yeah, so that's how I got there. I don't know how, right? That's my answers, right? It just happened, right? But it took these little pieces. It took these little steps. You know, if I had to describe how I got there, the way that I got there was little steps of faith, by being a little bit more open to this idea that I thought was a little bit crazy, and hearing from different people that had success, and putting a little faith in that and seeing, well, where does that take me? And then taking that success that I got from it and going a little bit further and a little bit further until I reached the point where now, you know, some of the stuff that I thought was totally batshit crazy, actually, it doesn't always make sense to me, but I kind of get it. I get it at a very deep level, and it works. So, anyway, I don't know. This is not meant to convince you, because I honestly, and I'll tell you this, I don't think you can be convinced, right? If you're not at least open to this idea, because I'm not going to convince you through a logical or analytical, because that's not the path. I honestly think, and you know, that's one thing that I'll agree with Eckhart Tolle on in his book on the New Earth, is that there's just this point where the universe, or whatever it is, says, hey, taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, look, it's time to wake up. Time for you to realize there's something bigger than you and your brain and logic out there in the world. And yeah, so if it's your time, it's your time. If it's not, I'm not going to argue with you. I understand where you're coming from. I was there. If you go back 7 years ago and you play me this video, I'll turn it off in the first minute, because I'll be like, screw you. You're crazy. What are you talking about? What are you trying to sell? So anyway, that's it. Hopefully that answers the question for you guys. I appreciate you asking it, because I'm still processing it, right? As you can tell, because I don't know. I don't honestly know the complete answer to it, and I wish that I did, but I do know that it works, and I've seen the proof in my life and other people's lives, and so that's why I have reached this crazy nut job level that you see today. All right, if you like this video, subscribe, and if you don't like this video, well, I don't know, subscribe anyway. Maybe you'll someday get enlightened.